A lot of the traditional high street shops shut down, and the ones that are open, like that market stall over there, still there, but the ones that are open typically replaced with foreigners in some way or another. Even the local fish and chip shop, it was a proper English chip shop, replaced with the foreign ones. As young as I am, I'm at an age where I can just about remember the end of the good times, the end of the 1990s. The end of the 1990s and the beginning of the 2000s, probably up until about 2010, was when everything was good. There was a lot more prosperity in the whole society, and everything felt positive. Everything felt as if everybody was looking forward to the future. Nowadays, the overall feeling is quite the opposite. Everybody seems to be unhappy with the future, myself included. It doesn't feel like there's any positivity towards the future. Everywhere you go, there's negative things. Mobile phones ruined everybody. Everywhere you go, there's no want to talk to each other and to be around each other anymore. It's all centered around a mobile phone or some kind of other technology. These days, it seems like everywhere you go, people are stuck to themselves. They're stuck to their mobile phone, self-centered around themselves and their mobile phone. It's as if nothing else matters. As long as they've got their mobile phone and their social media, nothing else matters. I remember when mobile phones were just starting to come about. I remember when they were actually useful. That's not to mean that mobile phones these days aren't useful. But I remember when they were a phone. You could see on the screen, and even the ones where you couldn't save an address book. Now, I'm the most positive person that you'll probably ever meet. But I like to think that I can look outside the box, because other people don't seem to. They're only bothered about what's in front of them. Their mobile phone, as long as they've got their mobile phone and all that, they're not bothered about the rest of what happens in the world. Which is why I think it's more important than ever to keep your family traditions and your family as close as possible. In this day and age, it seems like every corner you turn, there's a big company there wanting to take away your traditions and bring everything you have to them, to line their pockets. If you don't keep a hold of your family traditions and all those types of things, they'll all disappear. And that's what's happening at the moment. There's always somebody there trying to take away the good things. So you've just got to look outside the box and keep all of those good things alive. Otherwise, these big companies and the government will take it all away, and it'll become something quite undesirable. Even the things that we look forward to, like Halloween, Christmas, and all of those types of things, these days, they've all been turned into something to make money for companies. Of course, shops and the likes have to make their money somewhere. But is it really necessary for all those Christmas decorations to be in the shops in September? I really think that there is such a thing as too much of a good thing, because it just makes the essence and the excitement of Christmas go away a little bit when it's extended. Same for Halloween. There's a lot of shops at the moment where Halloween decorations are already in the shops in June and July, let alone September. And then there's aisles full of Christmas decorations. I know they've got to make their money, these shops, but I think November's probably the earliest for Christmas decorations, and obviously the end of September for Halloween, and obviously through October to get ready for actual Halloween. I think it's very important to maintain traditions and morals. It seems these days a lot of those traditions are being taken away from us by big companies, and morals just aren't particularly cared about by youngsters and even adults these days. I think it won't be long before all of the English traditions won't be anymore. Sunday roasts, Christmas dinners, that'll all be gone and replaced with takeaways. Just order something and have it delivered. Why go to the bother of cooking it yourself? Who cares for traditions and things like that? I try very hard to make sure that my family sticks with traditions to keep them going, and that we keep morals. You've got to have a good moral standing, because if we just let all the morals go, everybody will be rude and nobody will care for each other. Find a lot these days that men won't hold doors open for women when you go into a shop, and just your general please and thank yous are few and far between. I think it's important to make sure that we try to keep those. Don't let big companies and other people take our morals away that we have in England and our traditions. I think these days all the excitement about the future just seems like it's not there. I remember being excited for the future. I'm still excited for the future. I'm excited for my future and my family's future, but I'm not excited for the future of the country. It used to feel like things were going to be better, things were getting good. What's going to happen next? It felt exciting. Now it feels like, what's going to happen next? Before long we'll be full of houses and we won't be able to move. We're full of people. Nobody will speak English anymore. Nobody will have any kind of morals. It'll all be out the window. I do think it's a problem, yeah. Very much so. And it's not just a small problem. It might appear that it's always negative, but that's because I think it is. I think a lot of the way that the country is now, things have a negative effect. For example, if you go anywhere, you'll find people of all different walks of life and ages stuck to their mobile telephones. And a lot of them, as scary as it seems, and it does seem scary, a lot of people are relying on this artificial intelligence, this AI. Now, to me, that's completely bonkers. There's people that have lived a very good life, and they're in their older ages now, relying on this AI, and they believe in what it says, even though they know things to be different. They search it on their mobile telephone or on a computer, and when it tells them the answer, they just go with that answer. It's a crazy world at the moment, and it's an even crazier country. I think we can make it better if the big companies didn't brainwash everybody into buying all these products and relying on them. It was much better and a slower pace of life as well when people just relied on themselves and relied on their own knowledge and relied on other people's knowledge. If you wanted to know something, you'd go and ask somebody else, whether it be somebody you know or a stranger. You'd go and ask them the question to see what the answer would be, and then you'd use your own mind and common sense to distinguish whether what you've been told seems plausible or not. But these days it seems people are relying on this technology, ditching their common sense and just thinking, well, this says that that is true, so it's true. But the actual fact is a lot of the answers that come from this artificial intelligence are not true. They're false information because the artificial intelligence just gathers it up from the internet, which is full of wrong answers as well as good answers, but it's also full of wrong ones. And the artificial intelligence doesn't know how to distinguish the right answer from a wrong answer. So it just gathers them all up and thinks to itself, well, this one is more prevalent than a few others, so this must be right. If we're not careful, we're going to end up with a population of stupid people because all the correct answers for things will be replaced with the wrong answers that will now be correct answers. It's something that the younger generation need to take accountability for, because it's them people that are going to be affected by it. It's a dangerous thing. Now that's a whole different question. Is life faster than it used to be? I grew up, and I can just remember the time I grew up because I was young in the 1990s. But I can remember from about 95 onwards, roughly. And it seems that back then, people were slower. And I don't mean slower as in stupider. I mean slower as in they just took their time with things a lot more than people do these days. And I think that's due to the food that we're being fed. And we are being fed food. Obviously, you might think that because we feed ourselves means that it's in our control, but it's not completely in our control anyway. So I think the reason why everybody's so fast-paced these days is because of the amount of sugar and caffeine and all the other bad ingredients in everyday food these days. Not to mention the foods which is in your control, like energy drinks. So many people drink energy drinks every single day. And the people that do that are usually running around like blue-ass flies because they're so jacked up on sugar and caffeine and other rubbish. They're just constantly flying around, which leads to irrational and bad decisions. It leads to mistakes being made because they're rushing around all the time, making decisions. That's why I think, if you go and speak to anybody these days, there's people in their 50s and 60s which drink cans and cans of energy drinks every day. People say that coffee does the same, but nowhere near. one can of an energy drink is equivalent to probably 6 or 7 cups of coffee. And there's people that drink cases of Red Bulls and other energy drinks every day. 6 cans or more every day. So I think really this country's on a bit of a recipe for disaster. The younger generation, which are going to be responsible for keeping the country on track, are constantly high on caffeine and sugar. They've got no morals, and they've got no traditions. You've got the older people who don't care what happens. They just build houses everywhere and cram people in all over the place because they're going to be dead soon and it's not going to affect them. Then you've got the younger generation that think, well, if that's what they say, they're older than me, they must know better. So this is the right thing to do. So then they go along and do what they're told. They don't put a lot of thought into the repercussions of what they're doing for future generations and their own. Big companies and housing developers and the likes don't care about what happens to the country. They don't care about what happens to you. It's down to you and your family to make sure that this country stays on track and is preserved for future generations to enjoy.